Good morning. My name is Ariel and this is my week 4 garden tour. I'm a home gardener. I am in Central Missouri, Zone 6A. I'm going to take you around and show you all the different things we've got going on. This first bed here is where I had my broccoli. This guy started going to seed this week. So I went ahead and I picked everything else other than a couple. I left like 3 plants that were still pretty little. And so I'm hoping maybe I'll get a little more broccoli harvest out of those. But this guy is broccoli once it's going to seed. And I'm really trying to focus on seed saving this year. So you're gonna hear me talk about different seed saving techniques I'm doing. But when this one started going to seed, I said, let's pull everything else that's close and be done with broccoli. So sometimes you just have to listen to what the climate is doing, you know, what the temperature in the season is telling you. And in Missouri, broccoli does not do well here, especially as you get into the summer. It's kind of a gamble. So we're done with broccoli. But what I did do is I started moving in all my peppers. I use these bamboo stakes. Peppers don't need a lot of support. They just kind of need something to lean on. I'll probably throw a tie or two just to help hold them upright, but I'm gonna fill up this whole bed with peppers just as I get the rest of these broccoli out. And we'll see that bed transition here. Probably within 2 weeks, the last of the broccoli be gone. I do have a couple of cabbages still in this bed too. Gosh, they just look big and beautiful and happy. So we're gonna let those last few spring things finish up and then we'll switch it over to peppers. So now let's come over here. This is some green beans. It's a combination of Blue Lake bush beans and then provider beans. And I throw in some purple ones just for fun. The purple beans look really cool when you're growing them, but they do turn green once you blanch them, which is kind of a bummer because I would love to serve my kids purple green beans, but they're fun to pick. And that's kind of maybe the start there of some new bean nodes, or they might just put on a little more foliage. There's some green beans. I got just a few of them that have leaves that look like that, you know, but then the rest of them just look really healthy and good. So these are something that I try to succession sow throughout the spring in the garden, so that way I can bring in harvests gradually. Like I'm always picking beans. Coming on over. These are the Space Master 80 cucumbers, and they're coming up. They're being a little slow, but we'll see how they go. These will eventually fill up this whole trellis, and this is about a 3 foot wide trellis, 3.5 foot wide trellis, and they will climb up and over it just with a little bit of help. Once they're long enough, I'll start weaving them through and they will climb this trellis and hang on there. Then the fruit will just hang out underneath. So I can literally come squat down at the end here and pick cucumbers that'll just be hanging. Underneath for now, I'm letting this kale go. This is dinosaur kale. I'm gonna start picking some of this. Honestly, I don't need a lot of raw kale. Like I don't just eat it in salads. It's not my favorite in salads, but I do like to add it to smoothies for extra nutrients. Super healthy. I have a duck too, and they really like kale, so we're gonna feed some of this to Doris the duck. Over here I've got strawberries. These are going to be the Gurney's Whopper strawberries. I ordered those from Gurney's, and they are a June bearing strawberry. I missed a few of them. I would have pinched those off because this is the first year they're planted, but they do a really big June bearing strawberry, which means they're going to set like 1 set of fruit per year. I'll show you my other ones, and the other ones are an ever bearing strawberry, so I'll show you kind of the difference there. But that's literally like a first year baby fruit. Next year these guys are just going to go wild. But I had planted this whole bed with Gurney's Whopper strawberries, and the chickens got out, tore up a bunch of them, pulled out. They were bare root, and they didn't come back. They didn't make it. Like, let me find one like this. That was a bare root strawberry that it got picked out. I tried to replant it, and it just didn't make it. So just so I wouldn't waste the space in this bed, I went ahead and planted some peppers in here too. My peppers were just sitting in a tray waiting for somewhere to go. So I went ahead and got some of them planted as well. So they're in here. There's a little baby pepper flower. And you'll see that is a whole bunch of peppers right there. But I went ahead and put some peppers in here just to use the space. They don't spread out that much. So I put them pretty close together just to kind of fill in the bare spots. If you leave a spot empty in your garden, nature will find something to plant there for you. So I didn't want to put too many in because these Gurney's Whopper plants, I want them to fill out the rest of the bed. So that way I have 25 plus plants in here next year. So what they're doing is they're putting out runners. You can see right here, this stem running off here, this will become another strawberry plant. I just want to let that get in contact with the dirt and it will put down roots and turn into another strawberry. At the end of the season, I will go through and clip all of these. They call these like umbilicals. This is the mother plant and the baby plant. I'll clip those so that way next year this guy isn't sucking nutrients off of the mother plant. But I'm gonna let that fill them out, and you can kind of direct them where you want them to go. If you've got a blank spot, just kind of watch where they're putting runners out and lead them where you want those runners to take root. Okay, so this bed here is an ever-bearing strawberry. So these will put on fruit 2 or 3 times in a season. They will reflower and put on more fruit. The difference is an ever-bearing strawberry is typically a little bit smaller in fruit size. So this is kind of the normal, show you my hand, about the normal size fruit from an ever-bearing strawberry. These specifically are the Ozark Beauty. I have been really happy with this ever-bearing strawberry variety. I did quinault strawberries for a while in that other bed, and I just switched it over to the June bearing because I wanted one ever-bearing, one June bearing. And I was never like blown away with how the quinault strawberries did. These though have done amazing. They have put off so many runner plants. Their production this year has been really great. Like they're just exploding. Now the bed in the middle looks kind of sad. I've had some kind of critter coming in here, rooting around, picking strawberries every night, which, like, I mean, who wouldn't want that? It's beautiful. But other than that, these have been really great plants for the plants around the edge of my bed. Also, they drop runners too. That's kind of the start of runners. So what I try to do is I get them to drop it all the way into the dirt, and then I dig these up and I will replant those, some of them into the bed as first year plants, but I do also share those and sell those to help pay for my garden. So once you buy strawberries, if you keep them healthy, you don't need to buy them again because they're gonna multiply for you. Just keep the plants healthy and they're gonna do so good. So just kind of show you, I need to get out here and pick today because it warmed up. We had a lot of rain and then it warmed up. So I've got a lot of strawberries that are ready to come in. I was just waiting on them to ripen. Just bunches of them. They're all gonna come in with me today. This bed over here, I've got 3 spaghetti squash plants. And I'm gonna grow these up and over the trellis. I'm thinking spaghetti squash is probably gonna need some support for the squash, which I'll do that with some t-shirts. But I just want to support the foliage and help it get up and over this trellis here. So as they get big enough, I will gently weave them around the trellis and help them work their way up and over. Their spines there are actually really prickly, so kind of watch your hands. It's better to do this with gloves on, but I will kind of work them around the trellis so that way they start to grow up. And with a little bit of encouragement, these are totally fine to grow vertically, and it takes up a lot less ground space if you grow them up. So these are going to be, I believe, zinnias that I planted here. I planted several kinds of flowers, but these look very, very much like the zinnias. I made room for a lot of flowers in my garden. I just tried to tuck them into all these little corners and empty spaces because I want it to be a beautiful place out here. You know, I have planted a little bit of green beans in there. Sure. I could have stuck another tomato plant in there, but I want to encourage pollinators and I want my garden to be beautiful. So I made room for flowers and I'm really looking forward to having all these bloom. I cannot get over these cabbage. I've been covering these with row covers and I feel like that is what I have found to be the trick, you know, but they're doing so good. Adding the row cover, really, it kind of keeps the temperature a little bit more moderate and it helps keep pests off. That's been the trick, is keeping the cabbage worms off. So they're starting to form that head there. And I did go through at one point and I pruned out some of the bottom foliage that was looking a little yellow, looking a little sick, and I think that made them happier. So these probably have another 2 to 3 weeks at least. So I'm just keeping them covered, and I'm also spraying every week with BT. It's an organic pesticide to deal with worm type pests. So it'll take care of caterpillars, it'll take care of hornworms. As far as like succession planting, I threw in this empty spot, I put a zucchini in. I want to have the next thing ready to go as soon as I pull these. So I'm letting that guy get a little bit established. He is struggling somewhat from these big cabbage leaves shading him out. So I'm trying to make sure I leave a gap for him to get some sunlight in there too. But God, I just cannot get over how massive these cabbages are. They look so good. I still got some peas growing. I will tell you, this year I started some peas indoors and then hardened them off and transplanted them out. And I put some I direct sowed. I will not plant peas indoors again next year. I will direct sow them as early as possible and potentially even like winter sow them outside and just cover them, because the ones that I planted inside have done horrible, and the ones that I direct sowed have done amazing. Like these were direct sowed, and then these were, you know, they've been sick, they've been just not doing good. They've produced some peas, but they've just not been happy plants. So next year I will not start peas indoors. I will direct sow all of those. All right, so is that not beautiful? Look at that. These are radishes that I'm letting go to seed. I picked, you know, as these ones I could tell they were going to seed, I went ahead and picked everything else, and I left a few to let them go to seed. Now with these, they flower. We'll put on these little flowers, and then what they're going to leave behind are these seed pods. And I want to leave this plant in the ground as long as possible so the seeds in these pods can mature. And then after that, I will get all the seeds out and save them. So then next year I don't have to buy radish seeds, because each one of these little pods is going to have multiple seeds. And look, there's 100 flowers right here. Here I've got these Hale's Best Cantaloupe. Pick that grass. Kind of like the cucumbers, they're going a little slow to get started, but they look healthy. There's really there's not pests on them. I think they're just taking their time. I have to remind myself that so much of plant growth speed, plant metabolism comes from temperature. And this week it's been pretty cold and rainy. We've had, you know, the last couple of days it's gotten up into the 80s, but the rest of the week it was kind of chilly. So that really kind of slows down plant growth. Once it warms up here, once we're getting into, you know, consistently 80 degree days, these are just gonna take off, and I'll be able to show you. I do the same thing that I do with the cucumbers, is I'm gonna help them vine all the way up and over, and then underneath there will just be fruit hanging down. So I have a lot of mushrooms growing in my beds. If you have questions about that, they I don't plant them, they just grow on their own. There's nothing wrong with them. They're not bad for your beds. It's just a sign that you have good beneficial microorganisms growing in your soil, and that's what you want when you're organic gardening, just to keep the soil as healthy as possible. I planted some different flowers here, and so these are kind of starting to join the garden gang. We'll see as those fill in. I thought it would be pretty to have, you know, have some flowers at the end of this bed here. All right, so I have got lots of peas on this trellis. These I just built from bamboo sticks that I got from Lowe's, and then just twine, just like jute twine. Let's see, but yeah, I've got lots of peas. The thing I'll say with growing them this way is the peas kind of want to drop down in the middle. I don't get so many of them. There's some along the outsides, but as you're harvesting, you're kind of like looking down inside to see where your peas are that are ready. So kind of keep that in mind. It's not a bad idea, and I didn't do that, to leave an opening in the middle. As they get up here, it's going to be harder for me to pick. Of course, the peas will be higher up, but these are filling out nicely and they're still looking okay. I've got a few of them looking a little bit yellow in the bottom. When your peas, they'll start at the bottom. When they're done with the heat, they can't take it anymore, they'll start to get yellow from the bottoms up, and they'll just die on the trellis that you have them on. I do have, I'll show you. That, my friends, is a baby pumpkin. I went ahead and started the seeds in the middle because I don't need to grow anything in there, and that way when I'm done with the peas, these pumpkins are established. They're sprouted, they're getting off to the races. So I do have that going in the middle. Lettuce. My lettuce itself is doing okay. We've got big fat leaves. I'm gonna pick several salads out here today. The spinach, which is what's putting up these stalks, it is going to seed. And I am gonna let this one go to seed. I'm gonna try to harvest the seeds from this. It's going to seed, which is fine. We're done with the season. It's going to seed. So that's kind of the difference in what's in here, is the lettuce has not put up these center stalks yet. So, but still, I mean, I could eat all the leaves off of here. They're gonna start tasting a little bit bitter as it gets too warm for them, but plenty of lettuce I can still come out and pick. I'm gonna try to keep it growing as long as I can. Lettuce is something that we eat a lot of, so if I can grow that takes out of my grocery budget. But it's looking good, very, very full, and I really thought that I wasn't gonna get any lettuce this year. When the chickens kept tearing it up, I had kind of given up on it, and then surprise. Here are these beautiful blueberries. Aren't those colors so pretty? They'll land on, on blue, but I think it's really cool as they come along. Here we have got elephant garlic, and it is putting up garlic scapes, and I can pick those and eat those, and they're really tasty. Then we have got some green beans and some onions that I put in from seed. I don't have very much faith in them. They're not looking very happy. I don't know. But I put green beans in all the little empty spaces. I'm like, hey, let's use the bed. And then these are more garlic. We had a day with really severe wind gusts, and it just beat up these garlic tops. Now they're still fine. The garlic is still growing. That stem, you want to wait to pick them till that gets till it like flops over. So the garlic tops, I'm not so worried about. I mean, a plant trying to support something, I just broke that. Plant trying to support something that is this tall, upright, is really hard. I don't really want to come through and clip them, but I might. Before this, they were looking great, but those winds just really kind of beat them up. but we do have more green beans over here, and these I sowed a few weeks later than the green beans I already showed you. So that way these will put their fruit on at a little bit different time, so they're not all coming on at once. These are all bush variety beans, so they do not need something to climb on. Potatoes. If I pull these plants up right now, the ones that have kind of flowered already would have little new potatoes on them. So you can pick potatoes when they're really small and they're like new potatoes. Those would be like the little bite size, you know, little ones. Or you can leave them in and let them get bigger, as long as you can keep the plants healthy. Now, if your plants start to look sick, like that one kind of looks a little sick, or like maybe something got onto it, you can pull them, and as long as they've kind of flowered, you're gonna have new potatoes. But I would rather leave these and get some full-size potatoes. I've got my ones crazy, and I planted some in the ground. I'm gonna see how they do. I planted this corn right about a week ago, and it is already coming up. Now, these are too close together. I go ahead and I plant more than I need, and then I'm gonna go through and thin them out. The reason I do that is I don't know exactly when stuff's gonna come up. If stuff is gonna come up, you know, not every seed that you plant takes. I can see spots in this bed where seeds I planted have not sprouted yet. I'm gonna let them get, you know, about yay tall, and then I will thin them. If you plant corn too close together, what happens is you get really small, unfilled out heads of corn. And that's not what anybody wants. You want a big, fat, juicy thing of corn. So you want to thin them out. I'm probably going to end up pulling, you know, the middle plant here, and I'll do it in like a zigzag pattern. So that way the plant has got plenty of room around it to take nutrients from and to take water from. They will just compete too much. Here is an update on these tomato buckets. I have got fruit set, and you'll see these little bags on a lot of my tomatoes right now. Tomatoes are wind pollinated. They cross-pollinate very easily. And so because I want to seed save, I put these mesh bags on. So then the only tomatoes that can pollinate these flowers are the ones within the bag. Pollen can't get through that. It's just like a mesh, like a wedding favor bag from Walmart. So as soon as I see flowers coming on a tomato that I want to seed save from, I will put that little bag on. And once the fruit has set, once these guys have pollinated, I will tie a string around the branch here, so I know that those tomatoes are the ones that I can seed save from. So that's kind of how I keep track of them throughout the season. But if you'll see those bags, that's what those mean. These are the Blueberries tomatoes. And then we've got black strawberries. These were the tomatoes that were on the Baker Creek catalog, so I'm really excited. They're like a very variegated little cherry tomato. These ones are black cherry. They're a kind of a dark purple cherry tomato that it's a pretty good sized fruit. It's a little bit bigger than the normal cherry tomatoes. I grew this one last year and I just really liked it, but we've got all kinds of fruit. Now these onions in the middle are doing very well. This is an onion flower. I could technically get onion seed from that. Coming down there, the bulbs are filling out. When they're ready, I want to see those popping out of the dirt. That one's a red onion, and this one's probably just a white. But they're looking good. I'm not planning to pick these until probably at least July. I want to keep them going at least that long. So they smell very oniony at the end. I've got, you know, the whole two beds full of onions in the middle, and getting the breeze from all that is quite fragrant. Go along and look at the different tomatoes. I went through and pruned these, and I've got them all tied up to the cages now. All the ones that could reach, and they're almost all there. But I go through and I prune off anything that could really touch the dirt. So these bottom leaves here, they may even go if these get into the dirt, that's an easy way for any sickness that's in the soil to work its way up into your plants, and I don't want that, so I try to prune those off. It also helps there be good airflow along the base, so really I want to get this whole stalk up to here and prune anything below it. I try to leave some of it, like this one is where there's fruit set, so you don't prune those off unless you don't want there to be tomatoes growing right there. But I want at least the bottom like foot of my plant to be totally bare. It just helps with the airflow. But here's that vintage wine. I got a bag on there to seed save. And then this one, I've had a lot of rain, so I've got some splashback Amish paste. And he's getting tall. And then this one, probably one of the only ones I don't have tied up. It's that watermelon beefsteak that I was worried about, and doesn't he look, he just looks great. So that's a potato leaf variety. But I got it up onto the trellis. We're close. Probably by the end of the week, I'll be tying that one up too. This is the mortgage lifter. Like, I have got fruit set there and in there. They're blossoms, I should say. I've got blossoms in so many places on this plant already. They're prolific, like just a ton of fruit comes onto this, and they're good. They have a good flavor. Just a Roma Tomato. These I'm not going to prune as heavily because they are a determinate variety. Determinate will set all of its fruit at one time. So my intention is to have some suckers rooted off of my Roma tomatoes. So once this guy is done setting fruit, I will have a plant just to go right in place of it. Then this is an early Cascade. It's supposed to be one that sets fruit earlier. I do have one bag of seed saved on there. It is producing less right now than what the mortgage lifter is, so we'll see. That's a new one to me this year. Then this is the striped Roma. Again, it's a determinate variety, so I'm not going to prune this as heavily as I would my indeterminate varieties. This one is the Brandywine Pink. Almost up to the trellis. This trellis on this side is a little bit higher than the other ones. Maybe I'm expecting a lot from it, but very kind of like long, almost dainty branches in my opinion. Looking healthy. I've got flowers on almost all of my tomatoes so far. This is the Tigerella. I am really sad because this was the first one that actually set fruit, and my 4-year-old came out and he picked it because he wanted to eat it for dinner, and I said, Luke, that's green. Completely green. And I was gonna be able to show it to you. It was beautiful, variegated, and he picked it, and then he didn't like it because it was completely green. But it's got lots of blossoms set, so hopefully, see, like right there, already another little baby tomato. So hopefully we will see more fruit on this one soon. This is the Kellogg's breakfast. It's coming up. No real, yeah, we got blossoms, yeah. And then this one's Cherokee Purple. I love the Cherokee Purple tomatoes. Just a really good flavor, good plant, good sturdy plant too. And we have some opal basil and something else I planted there, maybe more opal basil. I did also put a marigold plant, some marigold plants in the middle as well. Just take advantage of this space down here at the bottom. Marigolds and basil are good companion plants for tomatoes. They benefit each other. And we've got another Roma, got some fruit on there. This one is a Brandywine Pink. It has got, oh, I just picked it off because it wasn't doing good. That is called a fasciated blossom, where there's multiple flowers kind of all merged into one. And you can leave them, but the fruit you get is gonna be weird because it's gonna be like multiple fruit all in one. But let's kind of start to some marigolds. He's almost got, so either a really big blossom or another fasciated blossom. Here is Black Crim. Again, a really good flavor on that tomato. And then this one is another Brandywine red. So these containers over here. So I went to Walmart and they had container variety blackberries and raspberries that it's like Bushel and Berry is the brand. They had obviously like seen some damage. There was hardly anything left, but they were on clearance for like $2. And I was like, if I spend $2 on a plant, it doesn't make it, that's fine. I've spent more money on plants and had them die. So I have been giving these some TLC, lots of water, lots of love, and they're coming back. I mean, there was literally like nothing on these plants. They looked just like a bag of mush, and here they're coming. So I'm really excited to see both of them are coming back. That's my tour for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you could, please try to like and subscribe. I'm really trying to grow this channel as a way to teach people how to grow their own food. In the world that we live in, if we all grew a little bit of our own food, I think that the situation would be very different if we all had those skills still. It's very important, and I'm passionate about teaching people how to relearn those skills that everyone used to have a garden in their backyard, and now we don't. And I love seeing this revival in gardening, and I want to do what I can to help spread that and help grow that. So I want to teach people how to grow food and how to be as self-sufficient as possible where they're at with the space they have. So please like and subscribe. Make sure to check me out. I'm also on TikTok, and I have a free Facebook group. If you have questions, you can leave them in the comments, but you can also go leave a comment there. And you know, there's only a few hundred people in there right now, but that's a few hundred people who could come at you with an answer, who could help you to figure out, to troubleshoot and see what's going on, who could give you the best advice. You know, it's a community. I want us all to learn from each other. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a great week.